Welcome to our webinar on transitioning social isolation to compassionate social distancing. My name is Kayla Breelove Carter. I am a licensed counseling therapist, clinical traumatologist, and clinical supervisor for the community counseling program in Moncton. I'm really looking forward in offering you this presentation. I would like to start us off by sharing with you what it is we do here at Breelove Counselling. Using a trauma-informed approach, we operate an integrative practice focused on community and private partnerships. Our specialty ranges from general mental health, art therapy, adversities, trauma, to nutritional psychology for individuals aged 18 and older. Our focus is to help individuals build resilience and heal. We achieve this by exploring opportunities for wellness and empowerment, non-judgmental listening, and customized treatment plans. Breelove Counselling contributes to the efforts of a resilient community. Since 2012, we have focused on services that support and empower wellness, awareness, and resilience. This focus is also a central part of our practicum placement program, the Community Counseling Program, which is in partnership with the Canadian Mental Health Association of New Brunswick, Moncton office. This program offers free counseling therapy for those in need, including our counseling clinic, to which we have been able to make virtual during this pandemic. Now that I've shared with you what we do, I'd like to present our topic for this presentation. Let's be honest for a moment. We are all in need of some compassionate social distancing as a way to reconnect with ourselves and engage in more self-care. Not only can exploring this type of distancing help with the overwhelming and real pandemic happening around us globally as a result of the spread of COVID-19, it can help us create new and more intentional ways of living with compassion for ourselves, others, and for the situation we are in at this time. I'm going to break down this presentation into two parts. Part one will be exploring social isolation and how it impacts our well-being. We will then discover whether you are being impacted by social isolation. And finally, we will explore what compassionate social distancing involves and its benefits. In part two, we are looking at exploring more ways that we can develop compassion, understanding how we can manage our emotions with compassion, bringing awareness to our locus of control, and practical ways to participate in the practice of compassionate social distancing. After viewing this full presentation, you will be able to communicate with me via email in the days following completion of this presentation. Write down any questions or thoughts you have during this video, and please do connect. The Canadian Mental Health Association of New Brunswick will provide you with the contact information. As the number of cases of COVID-19 increase, so does the associated anxieties, frustrations, adversities, and loneliness. As we experience this global pandemic together, it is important to address our mental health just as much as our physical health. 1 in 5 people already have mental health conditions, and 1 in 2 are at risk of developing them, making mental health something important to take care of. This presentation looks to acknowledge the realities some of you are experiencing. It is for this reason that it is so crucial for us to discuss our understanding of the differences between social isolation, social distancing, and the transition to more compassionate social distancing. Although some of us believe we are practicing social distancing, being unaware of the impact that physical isolation can have on you, brings some of us closer to social isolation than we would like to be. By exploring your awareness of the practice of compassionate social distancing, it can make the difference on your well-being, vicarious resilience, and sense of belonging during these difficult times and days. Social isolation is a term that has become relevant in our practice of social distancing, and the two terms are often used interchangeably. While social isolation is related to social distancing, they do not necessarily mean the same thing. However, if we are unaware of how we practice social distancing, it can lead to social isolation, which can lead to loneliness and other mental health problems. You can be lonely in a crowd, but you will not technically be socially isolated. Isolation is defined as an objective state, being physically alone, versus loneliness being a subjective experience, so feeling alone. Both objective and subjective, isolation can be painful experiences and have unhealthy impacts for those experiencing it. Being physically cut off from normal social interactions and networks can feel daunting at times, and it can also feel like a loss of freedom or independence. It can feel frustrating or sad or cause anxiety. If you add past adversities, existing mental health problems, and change, they are all factors that can lead to being triggered by the loss of your familiar, predictable, and at times comfortable state. Loss of mobility, unemployment, health issues are situations of loss. And as humans, loss is one of the most complicated emotions because it means perhaps experiencing the most intense feelings all at once. These are the times to which a support network or human connection can be a resilient factor in managing these unexpected situations. Some may be physically able to go out and meet people, but are inhibited from doing so because of symptoms related to depression, social adversities, becoming a carer for a loved one, pandemics, or bereavement. Any of these factors can be barriers to forming and maintaining social networks and can lead to loneliness and isolation. To be specific, there are 7 things that can be experienced within your body and mind when we are forced or influenced to socially isolate ourselves. Poor self-esteem. There are significant studies that show physiological outcomes to individuals who isolate. One theorist in particular, Abraham Maslow, with his famously recognized hierarchy of needs, does suggest that the idea that one cannot reach their fullest potential, therefore achievement and overall health, if they are unable to fulfill their basic needs. These needs are physiological needs such as water, food, shelter, safety needs such as feeling safe, physically, psychologically, morally, and socially, sense of belonging, having purpose, feeling that you belong, that you are needed, a sense of esteem, such as self-compassion, self-love, acceptance of self. And finally, 5, achieving health to the fullest potential. Individuals struggling to make ends meet, feeling unsafe, are isolated, or are big self-critics would inevitably develop a poor image and self-worth over time. Depression. Symptoms of depression, such as isolating yourself and not socializing for more than a day at a time, can lead to other symptoms of depression. While it may not be helpful to be on social media every hour on the hour, it's important to at least connect with coworkers, friends, or connect with local classes and groups. Many are offering live feeds for various community classes and groups. Loss of reality. When we get too involved in binge watching TV shows, games, or movies, then they come to an end. This can trigger feelings of loss due to the perceived loss of reality. Meaning, when you get really into these storylines and characters, along with the heightened anxieties and adversities of our current realities, your brain can lead you to subconsciously feel that perceived threats or fictions can get mixed with personal realities. The same can be experienced when watching too much media coverage on topics that are unpredictable in nature. Decreased ability to learn. Individuals experiencing social isolation over time experience a shift in their brain function. This is consistent with the fact that our brains adapt well to our environment. However, in this case, it does not mean that it adapts to benefit us. It adapts to help us survive. Over time, this adaptation creates, in a practical sense, a decrease in experiences that require new learning, like puzzles and mind games. Decreased sense of empathy. Similar to a decrease in an ability to learn, our brain's neurological pathways may hinder our ability to feel and love as a result of socially isolating ourselves over time. Inflammation. Childhood adversities, along with various other experiences, can lead to inflammation, not only physically, but also behaviorally. If we become too alienated, depression and stress is one of the leading contributors of inflammation. These symptoms can also lead to behaviors which cause unhealthy lifestyle choices, leading to bloating, increased risk of illness, and digestive issues, to name a few. Reduced resilience. Individuals that experience emotional, physical pains and isolation can find it hard to build a sense of resilience. As mentioned previously, a sense of belonging is crucial for a person's happiness. Healthy relationships and human interaction leads to resilience, coping skills, and higher sense of self-worth. In the absence of these connections and their benefits, it's easy for isolation to form, which can lead to loneliness and other mental health problems. If you have past childhood adversities, traumas, social adversities, or any other circumstances that have created an intolerance to change or stress, it's worth trying to connect more with others. Think outside the box could be engaging in online classes, registering for virtual groups. Consider writing someone an email, virtual pen pal, or connect with your inner self through various practices, such as yoga, meditation, journaling, self-help workbooks. Social isolation can occur based on choice, based on disability or illness, or in current times due to a global pandemic and the need for social distancing. However, we know that isolation can have negative impacts on our health and well-being. Of major concern is its connection to loneliness and depression. If you haven't done so already, please click on the handout 1, Am I Impacted by Social Isolation? That link is located below the link for this presentation. Let's go through the questions together and see if you are impacted by social isolation. I invite you to mark a yes or no to the following questions. 1. Do you live alone? 2. Do you see or talk to your family members one or more times per week? 3. Do you see or talk to your friends one or more times per week? 4. Do you provide daily care or support to a family member or friend who needs assistance with everyday tasks, preparing meals, providing transportation, or grocery shopping? 5. Do you almost always have a ride or transportation you need to get where you want to go? 6. Do you find it difficult or impossible to leave your home without assistance? 7. Do you feel you make a meaningful contribution to the world and people around you? 8. On a weekly basis, do you participate in social activities or attend organized groups such as choir, support groups, cultural performances, group meals, exercise classes? 9. Do you feel that you lack companionship? 10. Do you often feel left out? 11. Do you feel you have someone to rely on if you had a problem or needed help or advice? 12. Do you have someone to tell your good news or interesting stories to? 13. Within the last year, have you suffered a major loss or change like the death of a loved one or retirement? If you answered yes to questions 1, 4, 6, 9, 10, or 13, you are likely at risk of social isolation. However, if you answered yes to the questions 2, 3, 5, 7, 8, 11, 12, these are activities that build resilience and combat social isolation. If you feel you are struggling with social isolation, please try some of the following. Reaching out to family or friends via phone or video chat. Seek support and resources to help with transportation needs. Seek support and resources to help you in leaving your home more often. Seek different social groups, clubs, organizations. Volunteer your time. Seek the support of a therapist. Some of these to try can be helpful when the pandemic is over in person, but for most of them, they are accessible via virtual. Whether you are impacted by social isolation or not, learning the benefits and skills in practicing compassionate social distancing can help improve and manage the experiences we face during this pandemic, and for others far more often than we would want. Technically, social distancing can be explained as a public health tactic that helps communities slow down the transmission and spread of contagious illnesses like the coronavirus. As we've explored earlier, social distancing, when done so with unawareness, may leave people feeling down, lonely, and isolated. Compassionate social distancing is more an intentional practice of self-care, which benefits yourself, others, and the situation in which you may face. From difficulties managing emotions relating to frustrations, fears, and anxieties, to allowing yourself to take a moment for you. In the particular situation of a public health tactic, we get it. It's rough to be stuck at home, no matter if you live alone, with your significant other, a larger family, a few friends, or some near complete strangers. So much so that in some cases, such as astronauts, they require to go through extensive psychological testing before they're even given permission to be locked in with another person far away from home. Being forced to distance ourselves socially can strain even the steadiest relationships. So maintaining self-awareness, establishing structure, and allowing yourself a little compassion and self-care is critical for social distancing. Resilient societies are able to bounce back from disruptions. Feeling vicariously resilient through understanding our need for safety, managing our emotions, accepting losses or lack of control, and creating a compassionate future helps us move into a space of kindness towards ourselves, others, and the situations. Participating in compassionate distancing allows us to act in ways that seemingly put the interests of others before our own, while providing us permission to do what we need in our process of compassion towards ourselves and inevitably the process of resiliency. In the face of crises, frustration, fear, and anxiety are common emotions and in the short term can grab our attention and make us more cautious. But it can also lead to problems like panic, hoarding, division. In short, these emotions can pull us in separate directions, away from inner reflection, cooperation, and self-care. Compassion can drive cooperation. Research has shown feelings of compassion towards one person can spill over and affect how we treat others, even strangers, by pushing us to share their adversities or to refrain from causing them harm. It makes us willing to sacrifice for a common benefit. As explained in Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs, a sense of belonging is a basic human need. Individual benefits and societal benefits come from compassion. Social distancing can make things tricky, as usually a sense of belonging means connecting to people. So our basic need to connect is seemingly being taken away from us during this time. The tricky part with our current situation is that it's scrambling the ways we normally experience compassion and cooperation. This particular situation means we can't lend a shoulder to cry on. We can't come together as a group in person to help out older, more vulnerable people. We can't go out to support our local restaurants and shop. While this situation could lead to feelings of hopelessness, overwhelmingness, and helplessness, we are indeed humans. We are resilient, capable of adapting to the greatest adversities, and are connected through compassion. As we are in 2020, we have centuries of history to prove that in the face of great adversity, people find creative ways to adapt. Some benefits to compassionate social distancing are coping with stress. When you're intentional about giving yourself permission to feel how you feel in the moment, while also honoring your personal reality, you give your brain and body tools to cope with more efficiently with stress. This can be very helpful in times of adversities. Understand self-kindness. No one is perfect, whether you're in good health or you struggle with your health. Having self-kindness means understanding that everyone is human, and we all, at some point, were children who learned about the world and how to behave from someone else. We all make mistakes, and being able to accept that you are human along with everyone else can help you find kindness for yourself. This helps significantly when overcoming certain adversities, such as this pandemic. Self-kindness in action helps you avoid feelings of isolation. Being mindful. Being mindful means living in the moment and being aware of your feelings as you're experiencing them. For instance, if you're feeling anxious about things you cannot control during this pandemic, the benefits of being mindful helps you accept and be more aware of your suffering, helping you move through the adversities and achieving more fulfilling present moments. Like video chatting with friends, taking time to spend quality time with your kids, finishing that book or indoor project you always wanted to finish. Be kind, be mindful. The pandemic of coronavirus COVID-19 may be stressful for people. Fear and anxiety about a disease can be overwhelming and cause strong emotions in adults and children. However, coping with stress will make you, the people you care about, and your community stronger. Everyone reacts differently to stressful situations. How you respond to the pandemic can depend on your background, the things that make you different from other people, and the community you live in. People who may respond more strongly to stress of a crisis include older people and people with chronic diseases who are at higher risk for COVID-19, children and teens, people who are helping with the response to COVID-19, like doctors and other healthcare providers or first responders, people who have mental health conditions, including problems with substance use. Stress during an infectious virus outbreak can include fear and worry about your own health and the health of your loved ones, changes in sleep or eating patterns, difficulty sleeping or concentrating, worsening of chronic health problems, increased use of alcohol, tobacco, or other drugs. Incorporating compassion in your social distancing can help manage the stress faced by this pandemic. Learning to manage our feelings compassionately, building our locus of control, and practicing compassion will be a key piece to our resiliency as a community. What you think and the thoughts that go through your mind are very important in determining how you feel. Stop for a moment and think. When you're feeling good, what sort of thoughts roam around in your head? Conversely, when you're feeling bad, what sorts of thoughts are you having? It makes sense to most people when we say that it is not the situation you are in that determines how you feel, but the thoughts, meanings, and interpretations you bring to that situation. Let's look at an example of what I mean. Imagine you are told that you are to practice social distancing. There are 3 ways of thinking about this same situation, and subsequently, there are different emotions, behaviors, and physical sensations that would result from thinking in these different ways. Thought 1. Wow, this is an overwhelming situation. That being said, this is a good time to indulge in things I didn't have the time to do, including self-care. The emotions felt, mindful and compassionate. The behaviors exhibited, practice compassionate social distancing. The physical state, quite relaxed. Thought 2. This is horrible. I don't know how I'll cope. All this media coverage and people talking about it is making me feel anxious and depressed. The emotions felt, anxious and sad. The behavior exhibited, distracted, hypervigilant. Physical sensation, sick to stomach, tense. Thought 3. Yeah, right. I don't care. This situation does not apply to me and I will do what I want. This is so stupid. Emotions felt, frustrated and triggered. Behavior, most likely will not comply. Physical state, tense. Can you see how what we think can be so important in determining how we feel emotionally and physically and can influence what we do? One way to lift uncomfortable emotions is to change the way we are thinking. This means that you don't just accept your self-critical thoughts as true, but instead use your intention to shift your mindset into self-compassion gear. Once you are in this more helpful gear, start to question the way you are thinking and see if you can't bring a more compassionate perspective to the situation. What is actually helpful for me in this moment? Doing this can then have a positive impact on how you're feeling. Why are we so afraid of this novel coronavirus when we are much more likely to catch the flu? The major difference between seasonal flu and coronavirus or other pandemics is that we understand seasonal flu very well. In this particular situation, we can predict pretty accurately where seasonal flu will bring us. While with coronavirus, we don't know where it's going. Humans are naturally geared towards certainty and predictability. These are far from what we are experiencing globally and definitely provokes anxieties and other emotional adversities. So how can we manage our feelings about this? First, I think the most useful thing that people can do at this stage is to find some trusted sources of information, like the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, or the World Health Organization, or some of our major media, and just stick to them for information. They're professionals. They do the best job they can of gathering and communicating the information. The choice you make by filtering your media content to focus on trusted sources can protect you from the irresponsible rumor mongers, the people who are using this as an opportunity to sell things or to inflame racial hatred or ethnic hatred. Another part of managing emotions compassionately is recognizing that subconscious biases towards the unknown can potentially provoke instances of racism or xenophobia. Taking a trauma-informed lens takes into consideration that there will be people who have related trauma or adversities in their lives before these particular stressful times. In consequence, they are more vulnerable to any stressful event. The reason why compassion might bring us such wonderful benefits is due to its proposed vital role in helping to balance our emotions. Our emotions are governed by 3 systems known as the threat, drive, and soothe systems, with each playing an important role in regulating our emotions. Threat. Generally speaking, all living creatures are good at anticipating and avoiding threat in order to survive. This protective mechanism is hardwired within us all. Couple this with the human ability to think a lot, sprinkle some adversities in there, and we can find that the human mind seems to have a default setting to look for, pay attention to, and repetitively think about bad stuff. This results in our threat system being active and in overdrive a lot. We are no longer in caveman times, where the presence of saber-toothed tiger is the type of thing that triggers our threat system. In today's society, small mistakes or perceived flaws in our abilities, appearance, social skills, sense of safety, or future are all seen as threats. These sorts of things are seen as risks to our reputation, social status, relationships, career, finances, health, future, or happiness. Looking at this current pandemic, of course our threat system seems to be on high alert for many of us most of the time. Always on the lookout for potential dangers in order to protect ourselves. This leads to emotional responses such as anxiety, anger, or depression. Don't get me wrong, these emotions are all about motivating us to protect ourselves, with anger prompting us to confront and defeat danger, anxiety prompting us to shy away from danger, and depression prompting us to shut down from danger. The threat system also generates corresponding behavioral responses such as fight, flight, or freeze. The drive system, that system spurs us on to try new things, achieve things, set and work towards goals, and feel those ecstatic high-five moments when we have those wins in life. The drive system is what energizes us to get things done and be active in life. Having drive is great because it keeps us progressing in life. Without our drive system being active some of the time, we would be rather lifeless and directionless, a problem that can occur when we feel depressed or anxious. Soothe. The soothe system is very different and has a common influence on both the threat and drive systems. In a trauma-informed way, it is the capacity to return back to your window of tolerance. The system helps to quieten the other systems down when they are overactive. The soothe system is at work when we are just chilling out, feeling safe, calm and content. If we rely on people's natural resilience, and if we can recognize moments of practicing compassionate social distancing, one would expect most people, I believe, to get through this well. The last thing I would add is to be supportive of people who are under greater stress. Those will be people who do have anxiety that's being triggered by this, or people who do feel like they've been discriminated or worried about loved ones. Those are, again, things that we hope that we are all doing anyways. We now understand that when we are in threat mode, our thinking becomes very narrow and negative. Our mind doesn't seem to budge easily from its narrow, unhelpful focus when it is in this state. It's really difficult to think in balanced, reasonable, authentic, and rational ways when in threat mode, as this requires quite sophisticated thinking by our brain. Our brain wasn't designed to be sophisticated when it thinks we are in danger. Sophisticated thinking takes up time, something you have little of if you really are in danger. By contrast, narrow, unhelpful thinking is very quick. This is really important to know, as people often berate themselves and feel they are not in control of their seemingly irrational thinking when they are experiencing distressing emotions, not realizing that essentially their mind was built to be irrational when it senses danger. Now, the threat system is not a bad thing. Remember, its purpose is to keep us safe from legitimate threats. However, Many of our mental health problems relate to the threat system being active too much of the time when there is no real danger. When we look at our drive system, even though it is helpful in motivating us, it can also kick into overdrive. This particularly happens if we live in a society that is highly competitive and gives us the message that we are always needing to do more and to be better. That we are missing out if we don't achieve this, then there is something wrong with us. What can happen is that when we don't succeed in our goals, which understandably is not always possible to do, then we can quickly flip from drive system into threat system. This leads us in a trapped, unhealthy pattern of drive, drive, drive. And when we hit a barrier, then it is threat, threat, threat. Finally, looking at the soothe system, it is important to consider that we cannot be in threat and soothe mode at the same time. And you can't be in drive and soothe mode at the same time. Experiences of kindness and care tend to stimulate the soothe system, while receiving compassion from others is one way. To unlock the soothe system, self-compassion is another key. This presentation is really about finding this key, self-compassion, and using it whenever we need to calm the threat and drive systems. By bringing the soothe system online to balance our emotions when practicing social distancing. People who are able to adapt well to change take an active approach in dealing with it. On the slide, you'll see a 6-step process in developing the actionable changes to take more control of your life during this restricting and difficult time. Step 1, my life. Identify areas in your life where you feel dissatisfied or in a rut. Step 2, look at your attitude. Take a look at your attitude as it relates to the area you identified in step 1. Step 3, changing your attitude. Take the opportunity to identify ways to change unhelpful attitudes and move past the issues you identified. Step 4, set goals for change. Goals help you regain control in your life. Step 5, identify short-term steps. Begin moving towards your goal. These short-term steps are action-oriented activities to move you towards the general goals you identified in the last steps. And step 6, take action. Time to take action by taking control of your life. You can find a copy of the 6-step plan under the link for this presentation on the CMHA website. Specific to our relatable experiences globally with the current pandemic, the following do's and don'ts can be helpful in managing your experience. This guide by Beth Evans suggests: do. Give yourself space to feel what you're feeling. It's okay if you're feeling scared or hopeless at this time. Let yourself feel things. No one is superhuman. Don't force yourself to find a silver lining. You might end up more frustrated or emotionally drained. It's okay to feel bad. Feelings will happen and they are a normal part of the human experience, and that's okay. Do concentrate on what needs to be done today. Set realistic goals and accomplish what you can. Setting a routine for yourself and planning out the day can be helpful in managing being stuck at home. Don't plan too far into the future. We don't know what will happen, which is scary. And planning far ahead can be really stressful and create anticipation for something we aren't sure is coming. And this can lead to a sense of hopelessness and despair. This will only stress you out. Take it a day at a time and know that the only thing we know for sure is that things are uncertain right now. But this is temporary and things will eventually be back to normal. Do pick an activity that gives you a break from the news cycle. Not watching the news doesn't mean you don't care or that you won't be informed about the latest updates on the virus. It means you care about yourself too. As they say, a watched pot never boils. Don't feel like you have to master 5,000 new things or complete your life's work. Try to create balance in your life by embracing more downtime to do activities or hobbies, while also not forcing yourself to be productive every second of the day. Do give yourself a break. It's a stressful time and impossible to be perfect. Despite all the fear and worry associated with this pandemic, you're probably doing amazing right now. Don't forget, you're real, you're valid, and very much needed in this chaos. We are all going through this together. Although these strategies can be directly related to what everyone is experiencing globally, these social distancing strategies help promote compassion towards yourself, others, and the situation when you practice them intentionally. Let's look at other strategies that can be helpful in practicing compassionate social distancing. Limit the news and be careful what you read. Limit the amount of time you spend reading or watching things which aren't making you feel better. Stay connected with people. Do regular check-in times and feel connected to the people around you. Have breaks from social media. Mute keywords, Instagram, and hide Facebook posts which might be triggering. Avoid burnout. Access nature and sunlight wherever possible. Do exercise, eat mindfully, and stay hydrated. Complete a 5-minute meditation. Overwhelming experiences can bring up pain flare-ups. Taking time to complete a 5-minute meditation can help you accept, calm, appreciate, adore, and extend your compassion towards yourself, others, and the situation. You can do this by scanning your body, accepting what is, cultivating a sense of safety in this moment. Notice what is going right in the body. Fill your body with love and kindness. Send this same love to everyone else. Connect with others. Talk with people you trust about your concerns and how you are feeling. Create a menu of personal self-care activities that you enjoy, such as spending time with friends and family, exercising, or reading a book. Responding to COVID-19 can take an emotional toll on you. For those who have experienced past adversities or traumas, there are things you can do to reduce secondary traumatic stress reactions. Sharing the facts about COVID-19 and understanding the actual risk to yourself and people you care about can make an outbreak less stressful. When you share accurate information about COVID-19, you can help make people less stressed and allow yourself to connect with them. Acknowledge that secondary traumatic stress can impact anyone helping families after a traumatic event. Learn the symptoms, including physical, such as fatigue and illness, and mental, such as fear, withdrawal, and guilt. Allow time for you and your family to recover from responding to the pandemic. Ask for help if you feel overwhelmed or concerned that COVID-19 is affecting your ability to care for your family. If you're a frontline worker or first responder, affecting your ability to care for patients as you did before the outbreak. Remember, to change your perspective and regain your locus of control during difficult times, realize that you have a choice that can change most situations. Know that you can always change your attitude to alter how you view a situation. Brainstorm various courses of action. Monitor your self-talk. Recognize what you can change. Know what you cannot change. Remember that you can learn to be more internally oriented. As a result of being mindful and compassionate towards yourself and your situation, you will be able to move into a space of recognition of your personal responsibility for self-control, seeking opportunity, and finding kindness for your situation and of others. It has been a pleasure sharing our team's knowledge in transitioning from social isolation towards compassionate social distancing. I hope you've learned some new skills, or this has helped ponder further reflection. You are welcome to ask questions by connecting with me through email, especially if you have questions in the next few days after. Connect with CMHA of New Brunswick for contact information. Please connect with us through our website at breelove.ca, our Instagram at Breelove Community, and be sure to continue checking in with CMHA of New Brunswick for programs and services. Be well. Thank you.